We'll call to order the meeting tonight, April 21st, 2014. The record should show that we have 4 commissioners present. First thing we'll look at is the order of business. Do we have any changes with the order of business from staff, commissioners? If not, we have a motion to approve the order of business.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion about that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, that motion carries. Take a look at the consent agenda. Is there anything there that anybody would like to discuss from the consent agenda? If not, we'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda this evening.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll take the vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans?
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. With that, we have a 4:30 timetable agenda item having to do with MITA bonds. And Mr. Kessel, you said you're going to take that
Yes.
introduction.
I will certainly do that. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson and City Commissioners. This item is actually one that you have taken action on previously. The entity is MDI, and they're refinancing some of their units throughout North Dakota. So this MITA bond is actually being generated from the city of Devil's Lake. But since they have property in the city of Dickinson, we have to, of course, give our approval that these units be refinanced. The reason that we have it on the agenda this evening is when you took action on it the last, they had a different day when they advertised that it was going to take place. So in order to remain in IRS compliance, they have advertised. Today is the day they advertised the public hearing, so today is the day that we need to take action. And in the last time you took action, you confirmed or approved the bond issuance. So it's simply a matter of correcting the record and making sure that the hearing was held on the same day that it was advertised. So with that, it would certainly be our recommendation that you hold the hearing and then pass a motion in support of the MITA bond financing.
Okay, and for the public, just to make it clear, this involves no new construction. These are existing structures, and it's really a financing thing.
It is, and there's no money that it'll be owed on behalf of the city of Dickinson. Our bond rating is not affected, nor is our ability to borrow.
Okay. First of all, any questions of Mr. Kessel from commissioners? If not, we'll open the public hearing on this MITA bond issue. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak concerning this MITA bond? Anybody from the public? We have no comments from the public, so we'll close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion from the commission? So we are looking for a motion to approve the bond as requested. Mr. Coley?
Mr. President, there is a resolution that is in your packet. I believe your motion would be to approve the resolution. This would be resolution number 22-2014.
Thank you.
I would make that motion.
We have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Oltman?
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Okay, we will move to the non-timetable agenda. Item 4A. Mr. Colling, you're going to introduce this liquor license transfer issue?
Yes, Mr. President. At the last City Commission meeting, the Commission approved a transfer of an on-off sale liquor license for the House of Booze to Dean and Dora Valesky. An incorrect name was listed on the application for the license, and this resolution is to correct the misidentification of that licensee. This liquor license will be owned and operated under the name of HOB Enterprises, LLC, doing business as the House of Booze. That is a limited liability company that is owned and operated by the Valeskis. City staff would recommend approval of this resolution. This would be resolution number 23, Mr. President.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Colling?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 23-2014.
We have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote. Mrs. Dukart.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Olmans.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That motion carries. Our next agenda item is the issuance of an on and off sale liquor license. And Mr. Kessel, you're going to introduce that?
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Yes, this evening, you previously authorized the issuance of an additional on and off sale liquor license upon finding that the city had reached an estimated population of at least 21,000. As you recall, you have the ability to issue another on and off sale license as our population increases by 3,000 people or more. This issuance would recognize a population of 21,000. Pursuant to that, to your authorization of that license, we did hold a public auction on March 28th, and the Nash Finch Company was the high bidder with a bid of $446,000. The City Police Department has performed the required background checks and of the proposed licensee, and City staff recommends the award of the additional on-off sale license contingent upon payment to the Nash Finch Company. With that, I will yield the floor to any questions.
Any questions for the city administrator? If there are no questions, let's see, this would probably be 24, the resolution number?
Correct.
So we'll need a motion to approve Resolution 24-2014.
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans?
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries.
Thank you. I should also make you aware, related to that, I did receive a letter from Nash Finch stating that they plan to begin the store in 2014 and open it in either late 14 or early 15, just
Okay.
for your information.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move to the financial report for March.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. First of all, I'd like to thank Denise Bresden for compiling the report for you this evening. Just a brief overview. I'd like to make note that the sales, hospitality, and occupancy tax collections are all ahead of revenue expectations at this time. At least they are according to the budget expectations that we had for the first quarter. All remaining revenue collections are strong and in line with budget projections as well for the end of the first quarter. Expenses are also in line with within budget expectations or slightly lower than budget expectations. This may be due to lower staffing costs due to our inability to hire authorized staff. And if you'll notice, there's a large transfer out in the water and wastewater fund, and that transfer out went to the building fund, and that is to pay for a portion of the wastewater reclamation facility. The wastewater reclamation facility is being financed using the State Revolving Loan Fund, or SRF loan, as you've heard it referred to. So all things considered, the first quarterly budget is strong, and we don't have any concerns of note. Unless there's any questions for the City Commission, that would conclude my report for this evening.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Kessel on the financial report? It was really noteworthy that sales tax collections are very strong.
Very strong, and this is usually our weakest quarter. So for them to be as strong as they are, hopefully is a harbinger of things to come.
Mhm.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Oltmans?
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. Okay, Board of Equalization. We're setting a time for that meeting. Mr. Hirschfeld?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I am asking you tonight to change the Board of Equalization meeting on the 5th from 3 back to 3:30. That would coincide with the advertisement that we sent out. That was an error on my part, and instead of trying to start that early outside of the advertised time, just asking that we correct that and change the date or the starting time to 3:30.
Okay, so the date is the same.
Correct.
We're just moving a half an hour.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Hirschfeld on the meeting? Housekeeping thing? We need a motion to approve that time change then, huh?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hirschfeld.
Thank you.
Okay. Next agenda item is the monthly HR journal. Mrs. Nominick is here.
Good evening, Mr. President, Commissioners. Just a review of our hiring journal. Police officer positions, we still have 5 positions open. We are in the second interview background phase of that opening right now, doing some second interviews. We just recently filled an internal position for a police sergeant, for patrol sergeant, so that one is filled. Sanitation laborer, we had 1 position open. We did get that position filled. However, the sanitation operator position remains to be a very difficult position for us to fill. So we decided to hire 2 laborers to kind of help out because we can't fill those operator positions. So we did make 2 offers on the laborer and one offer on a operator. So those positions are, that department is full at this time then, making that change. Street maintenance, we still are having a tough time filling those street maintenance operator positions. We just did interviews last week, I believe it was, on the operator, actually today. And we probably will have an offer on that as well. Just one. We did not have more than one person to interview. So we'll reopen the position again and keep working on getting those positions filled. Water utility operator, we have a position open there, and we're working on getting those interviews set up. And the same with the chief wastewater plant operator. We had some good applicants for that position, so we'll be working on getting those interviews set up and get going on that. Custodians, we have 2 openings, one for our library museum and the other for our new public works building. So we did make 2 offers on that last week. So hopefully we will get those 2 positions filled. Engineering technician or line locator position, we have 1 opening there, and we did finish up our interviews today. So hopefully we'll be able to make an offer on that real soon as well. Property appraiser has been pretty difficult to get applicants for that. We're looking for someone with some experience, and we have not had any luck. So not real sure at this point if we're going to open it back up and keep searching what we'll do for that. We did advertise for 2 administrative assistants, one for community development and one for public works. The decision to hire for public works was made the day that we were doing the interviews. So we're going to re-advertise that just to make sure that we get the best candidates possible and open it internally as well. So if there's any internal interest, they can apply as well. But we did make 1 hire, and that person started today. So we're getting some positions filled. We have lots of seasonal positions open that applications are coming in slowly, but we're getting some. Have not done any interviewing yet on those positions. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Nominick. Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Kessel.
I just wanted to remind the commission that if we are unable to hire the positions in the assessing department, our goal was to hire 2 people so that we could do the residential reassessment in-house. If we are unable to do that, then that means we'll have to go out of house and have that done by contract. And just a reminder that that's about $1 million expense to the city if we have to do that. And we are penciled in for 2017, if I'm not mistaken, for that to take place. So it's several years in the future, but I just wanted to remind the commission of that eventuality.
Thank you. Ms. Nauman, I have one question. You know, it's apparent the difficulty with hiring continues, and I think we understand that. I get a sense, though, that retention isn't quite as big a problem. I know you have some turnover, but it appears the retention isn't quite the degree of problem that recruitment is.
I would agree with you. We're seeing a little bit of turnover in our police department right now, and that's been kind of a concern. Other departments, not as much turnover, yes.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
I'd just like to ask a question here. Mr. Kess, we talked about this here, and I'm talking about the seasonal employees. Currently, anyone under 18 years old, under 18 cannot work for the city, is that correct?
That's accurate.
Okay. Do other cities, are they at the same 18, or do they say 16 you can be in a non-equipment operating status?
I'm not exactly sure what all other cities do, Commissioner Steiner. We did have Attorney Colling and I did have a brief exchange about exactly that, lowering our age to 16 for positions that wouldn't involve any kind of machinery or there's a lot of limitations, let's just put it that way, when it comes to child labor laws. And the type of positions that we generally hire in the summer involve some kind of manual labor and usually chainsaws or other instruments that are considered dangerous, which prohibits them from working on our behalf. Doesn't mean that they all are that way, but the majority are. So we can look at that a little further and find out if there are some things that are more safe, or the duties are more safely performed by people under the age of 18. But as of now, we haven't concluded that review.
I think it'd be a good way to get some kids working. I mean, there's some 17-year-olds out there, 16-year-olds that can handle some of our jobs that we have. I think it's something that we need to look into, otherwise some of our work's not going to get done this summer.
And that is a concern, that we're not going to be able to find the staff that we normally do in the summers to get all the work done. It's a busy time for us.
Thank you.
I have one question. Is it the salary or is it housing? Or is it both, combination, or?
Some of the positions, it's really hard to say. Administrative assistants, for an example, I probably had 15 applicants not complete the required test. So that tells me they're not real serious about the position. So they couldn't even be considered because they didn't take the test. Police officer, we see the same thing. We maybe get 15, 20 applicants who don't, take the testing. Operators, street department, water department, sanitation, it's most likely the salary because those positions are CDL required and they can work other jobs for higher salaries. So not all of it is salary, some of it, yes.
And I understand our FEMA trailers are empty, so we could provide housing if we had to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I do advertise that we do have temporary housing, and if someone is in need, I do usually bring that up to them, but we do have several vacant.
Are we using that as an incentive, or do we have them pay rent? I'm not sure.
They pay rent.
They do.
It's a lower rent. I mean, it's probably cheaper than they're going to find anywhere else.
Maybe we may have to offer a better incentive. Maybe free rent for 3 months or something.
We've thought of a lot of creative ideas like that, but we have to get the right candidate first. Yeah.
Okay, Thank you.
Well,
Yes.
And I would say that that's a testament to the process. You know, you could throw a lot of applicants up against the wall and hope that some stick, but your retention is truly the measure of if the front side is working out. So I give you kudos on that because you've done a heck of a job of pre-qualifying on the front side and your retention shows. So
Good.
that's definitely you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
All right,
Novick.
thank you.
Next agenda item is revisiting our sewer rate issue. Mr. Kessel, you're going to open that up for us?
Thank you. We have discussed the sewer rate that was performed, the sewer rate analysis that was performed by Apex Engineering at previous city commission meetings. The concern has always been how to address services outside of our city limits. Our ability to provide customers outside our city limits has been greatly expanded, or will be shortly, with the addition of the sewer line reaching out to Dakota Prairie Refinery, and even beyond that to the city of South Hart. And because we are able to do that, it means that we have to tackle a question we haven't in the past. So Apex put together their thoughts on a rate which included the base rate, all of the financing of the projects that we have going, including the wastewater treatment plant that we discussed earlier, the influent pump station, all of the lift stations, anything that related to, with sewer or sewer treatment has been financed with that SRF loan that I mentioned earlier this evening. All of the projects then use the sewer rate to finance that SRF loan. So you've been presented, I think there's been general consensus that the rates, the base rate moving from $7.50 to 11 is fairly well understood. What the difficulty, as I mentioned earlier, was how to deal with those people outside. We had Apex do some comparisons of other like cities or like situations in our region being a couple state area, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. And what we found out is in the same scenario, the lowest increase that's provided is 35% higher, and the highest was 112. So that was the range that we had to work with. And so our recommendation to you this evening is that we use 35% as the increase to the base rate for the customers outside of the city limits of Dickinson. So in other words, they'd be charged the base rate recommended plus 35%. We have the exemption to that would be anytime we enter into a contract, such as we are with the city of South Hart, to provide them services. They are not a customer that's like anybody else. They're an incorporated political entity, and our hope is that we will use that 35% as a guide. But we've presented to them earlier using a 10% markup. And it would be our intention to continue in that mode of offering the city of South Hart the 10% markup, if you're so inclined. So with that this evening, our recommendation is to establish a base rate increase of 35% to all non-residential customers, and then include all of the other increases that we've reviewed in the past, and I can go over those again if you like. They were included in your packet, but if you would like me to, I can go over those again. So hopefully that was clear, and if not, I'll certainly try to clarify any questions that may arise.
Mr. Kessel, you mentioned that South Hart is really going to be a separate contractual situation, but we also have the same thing with the refinery, correct?
That is correct.
So those two entities would fall outside of this rate sheet, or not outside of it, but at least have a special place in it.
That's correct, and we already have an agreement with Dakota Prairie Refinery in place. So yes, they would also be another exception to the rule.
Well, I think it's important to note that even with the 35% increase on the $11 base rate, that's $14.85 a month. It's still less than 50 cents a day to have these services, not to mention the environmental impact that we're going to be making in this area by not releasing it into the river, there's so many positives for less than 50 cents a day. I think it's a good trade-off.
I don't have a need for you to run through the rest of the
Okay.
rate sheet again. If others do, we can do that.
Nope.
Or do we have any other questions? I think this is the third time, or fourth maybe, that we've addressed the topic. And any other questions or discussion? So we need to simply approve the resolution enacting the rate system,
With
correct?
the changes that you expressed, right?
Mr. Colling?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, you would adopt this resolution with the changes noted by Mr. Kessel.
And did we have a resolution number earlier, or,
You did not. This would be Resolution 25.
okay? Okay, so we need somebody to make the motion to
Mr.
approve.
President, move to approve resolution number 25 with the changes mentioned.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That motion carries. Okay, Mr. Kessel, you have more reports, I think.
I do. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Just one final comment on the previous agenda item. It is our intention to send a notice of increase letter out, if we can, in May, and then implement in June. If there is reservation, we'll implement in July, but it's our intention to get the word out prior to implementation. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. The first report that I have this evening then is a capital improvements plan report. I did place on your desk another revision to that document. I just wanted to point out a few things. The plan still includes 42 different projects, 3 of which are complete, and you'll notice that they have been separated and placed to the bottom of the sheet. Several projects have also been bid since our last update, and those bid amounts have been added, and they're always in italics. So when you see an italics number, that means that it's a hard figure or a bid figure. I'd also like to point out that under the municipal debt funding sources, there are several, but the second one in is Wells Fargo. We have been working with them diligently to execute that loan, and it used to be a $20 million loan. We are now lowering that to $15 million for a couple reasons. The first is they would like to finance water and sewer projects. And because of the State Water Commission action to provide us an $18.4 million grant, that meant that there were less projects to finance, which is obviously a good thing. So we lowered the amount, not necessarily commensurate, because they do have sewer projects as well, and the Water Commission was simply water projects. But it is a little bit less in terms of the financing with Wells Fargo specifically. We are meeting with American Bank Center and the Bank of North Dakota to firm up the loans and/or bonds that we will use to finance the projects on the list underneath their line items. I believe it's in our best interest to continue to use state financing whenever possible, just like the revolving loan fund, for several reasons. First of all, we avoid certain costs. We don't have to get the bond rated if we get a loan through the state. That's usually a savings of between $25,000 and $40,000. We also tend to have lower interest rates when we borrow from the state. The SRF loan is 2.5%, and the Bank of North Dakota initial offer was about 1.67, but it did move. It was an arm, essentially. Also, if all of the increases that we're expecting in population don't come to fruition, we're going to be pulling the trigger on these projects much earlier. And I would rather have us be financed with the state than with a private entity. I have a feeling they'll tend to be a little more lenient than a private entity might. So we'd like to take advantage of as much state dollars as we can. So I just wanted to point out those few things. You'll notice that the running debt total is a little lower on this sheet. but it is still, it's still a work in progress, and we'll continue to provide updates. And if there's any specific questions, I'll try to answer those this evening. If not, I'll move on to the next item, which
Mr.
is...
Kessel?
Oh, yep, sorry.
It is 5 o'clock.
Oh,
And if we can come back to your reports, we do have a timetable agenda item for 5 o'clock, and Mr. Colling, I think, is going to introduce that item.
Thank you, Mr. President. The item on your agenda is for an appeal of a denial of a sign permit application that was made by Dakota Outdoor Advertising. We have been in contact with Dakota Outdoor Advertising and their attorney for the past several weeks, and as you know, we are also looking at a revision to our sign code, particularly the section with respect to outdoor advertising or billboard signs. We are anticipating receiving a settlement proposal from Dakota Outdoor Advertising in a manner that addresses their permit applications in a manner to be compliant with our proposed draft sign ordinance, the new ordinance that will be adopted by you. We have indicated to Dakota Outdoor Advertising that when we receive that settlement proposal, the city will consider it seriously, and if it's something that we can agree to, then we would like to resolve it that way rather than sort of go to litigation and appeals before this commission or before court if it would involve that. In that light, we have agreed with Dakota Outdoor Advertising to continue the appeal hearing on this matter until the next city commission meeting. We'll work over the next couple of weeks to see whether or not we can reach a settlement agreement with the applicant. If we can, then this matter may go away entirely. If we cannot reach an agreement with them, then we may be back here in 2 weeks in order to hear their appeal. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have. I know the applicant is in the audience tonight too, and may wish to address you as well. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Colling. I guess I should ask if the applicant does want to address us.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioners, my name is Mike Derby. I'm with Dakota Outdoor Advertising. And as Mr. Colling stated, we have been working with staff and planning and zoning and have made presentations and been part of the process in regards to outdoor advertising, primarily as it pertains to digital billboards. But I do have a question for Mr. Colling at this time. May I ask him a question?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is tonight, one of the promises I made was to Virginia Houston, who's here, that owns the 5 billboards that are on I-94. Is that part of this process tonight, or at an earlier meeting we had talked about, separating those 2 issues from each other? Because she would like an opportunity to address the commission tonight about her situation, because I do not own those billboards. I'm simply helping her and representing her. What's the status of tonight's hearing?
Well, Mr. Ruby, Mr. President, the appeal that was made was with respect to all of those billboards that Dakota Outdoor Advertising had presented to the Board of Adjustment. So there are 9 total billboards, digital billboards that are proposed in basically along Villard Street, and then 5 billboards to the east of Exit 64. The Houston billboards that Mr. Derby refers to are those billboards that are static billboards to the east of Exit 64. Their application was to basically improve those billboards, bring those up to standard, up to I think a 672 square foot size, which is a standard in the industry. Mr. Corton's decision as he implements our sign code was that under our existing current code, billboards are not allowed. There are approximately 50 or so billboards, outdoor advertising signs within the community, and Mr. Corton's interpretation of the code was that additional billboards or modifications of existing billboards were not permitted under the code. The applicant disagrees with that and obviously has made their appeal on that. That matter was heard before the Board of Adjustment about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The Board of Adjustment did find that Mr. Corton's interpretation of the code was correct and did affirm the denial of those billboard applications. I think our intent as staff would be with the new sign code that is being drafted now and is being reviewed, is to be holistic about it, and that all of these signs, both the digital signs and the existing static billboard signs, would come into a conforming status under our new proposed code. So I think our proposal to you is that the appeal with respect to all of those billboards, both the digital ones and the static ones, would be continued until May 5th, until we can have a chance to work with the code a little bit and make sure that those existing billboard applications would also come within the parameters of our new sign code. So my suggestion would be that we handle the Houston billboards at the May 5th hearing as well.
I would like to speak to the commission if I might, please. I'm Virginia Houston, and those billboards are mine and they belong on my land. I would like to say a few words if I might.
Ms. Houston, why don't you go ahead and come forward? And
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure.
And I was going to try to stand up, but I'm getting upset and I will be shaky, so I will just park here where I can see you all. Those billboards are on our land that has been in the Houston family since 1905. The billboards we bought and put up 20 years ago. And all these years we've gone along and done our best to keep them up and make them look nice. And it just really ticks me off that you're including all the billboards in downtown Dickinson along with the ones out on the interstate. That doesn't even make sense. Because surely the ones along the interstate are meant to inform the travelers that are coming into Dickinson as to where there is food and where there is lodging for them. And, you know, what are those people going to do? If you can't have a billboard in front of El Sombrero and Don Pedro and all the different motels and anything, you want to mess, that would be it. But anyway, I just don't understand. I said, and this has gone on for so long. When my husband died last fall, he was 84 years old. In the last 6 months of his life, he had spent trying to arrange a lease on those billboards so that I would have the money to continue, and basically that is my only source of income. And he was trying so hard to get it fixed up so that I would be taken care of. I will try not to get emotional. Anyway, I think I've been very patient, and Mike has been wonderful to work with, but you know, how long is this going to go on? And we drove down through town today, and I thought, when you're counting the 51, could anybody ever distinguish between the ones that are on the interstate and the ones that are in downtown Dickinson? Because that is very important. The ones that are in downtown Dickinson, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have them, but their business sits there, and then they have a billboard to say what that business is. The ones that we have, like for El Sombrero, a little business, and they don't have a big billboard. But it says how to get there, and it says what they've got, and all our signs, and he wants to standardize them all, and I understand that. But how long is this going to drag on? This is ridiculous, you guys. Come on. You've got other important things to take care of besides worrying about these billboards all the time. And is there anything else I'm supposed to be saying here?
You did great.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, and but I don't mean to get emotional, but it just is so frustrating what they have to put up with. And you know, when you speak, you sit here and you speak, and all your legalese and all your descriptions and everything. Let's get down to the basic business of what's going on with the billboard. Surely the people that, I mean, you talk like the billboards, that's just us, as we just got those signs out there. But the people that advertise on those signs desperately need that advertising. And I don't think it's fair for someone to come in, and you talk about Mr. Corton, and basically what he has said, and we've talked with, and what he has said is, I've got my mind made up, and you do whatever you want to do. Well, is this what we expect from the city? Because we have dealt with him in the past on our land out there when Mr. Tooze bought some of it, and he had all the equipment for that construction company across the road parked out there, and we complained because it was on agricultural land. oh, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. Well, they didn't take care of it till finally they were through using the land and they moved their equipment off. So I would like to get a little break in here somewhere. That's all I have to say right now, and I thank you for your consideration.
Mrs. Houston, we're glad you're here. Thanks for your comments. It sounds like Dakota Outdoor Advertising and staff have agreed that they want to try to work on this for a couple more weeks here. And if you can come back to if there is a hearing on the appeal, join us again.
I would be glad to do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Colling, do we need a motion to continue?
Mr. President, you do not need a motion. I think if you were in agreement, we would just let the minutes reflect that the hearing on this appeal was continued until May 5th.
Okay. I think that we would not have a problem with that.
Not at all.
No.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Colling, on that item? All right. We will go back to city administrators' reports.
Thank you, President Jackson. I appreciate that. Sorry I didn't recognize the time earlier. I do have a couple items that aren't on the agenda that I just want to inform you about. We did sit with the Western North Dakota Energy Project. They recently unveiled their population projections for the three planning regions that include the oil hub cities of Minot, Williston, and Dickinson. And this was a revision of a 2012 report that was also completed by the NDSU Department of Agribusiness and Applied Economics. Those are the same people that we hired during our comprehensive plan to tell us what they think the best estimates of our population will be. And then we utilized those estimates in our comprehensive planning process. So they've revised those documents, and after reviewing job creation numbers and workforce demand, they have increased the population that they think will come to southwest North Dakota, and in fact all three of the planning regions. They now think that western North Dakota will the most probable scenario will experience an increase of over 80,000 people to our region. Our region is generally a 7-county area that makes up southwest North Dakota. In a high-end scenario, they think that it could be almost 100,000 people coming to southwest North Dakota. Using these revised figures, you can then extrapolate the expected population of the city of Dickinson to be between 48,600 and 52,000 people by the year 2039. Our comprehensive plan used a planning population of 42,500. The population gain that they're expecting is also front-loaded. We've been growing about 5 to 6% a year, and that places us as the second fastest growing small city in the United States. They expect that we'll increase that growth to 6.4% each and every year until the year 2020. And then we will slow to a more moderate growth rate of 1.1%, which, by the way, of the three planning regions is the highest percentage growth after 2020. Using the U.S. Census estimate of 28,000 now and growing at an annual rate of 6.4% until 2020, our estimated population at the conclusion of 2020 should be around 43,250 people. That is the number that we were planning on in 2039. So you can see that there's a increase, a pretty substantial increase in the population projections for Dickinson and southwest North Dakota. It is also noteworthy to mention that those projections do not include any activity in the Tyler Formation. So anything that would happen in that formation would be over and above the projections that I've shared with you this evening. There is a webinar that we heard and some people from the public attended. It is available on visionwestnd.com for anybody to view. I would certainly recommend doing that. This was a little bit of a surprise to hear this number, and I've instructed our leadership team that during our budget planning process that we should use the 6.4% number as our figure for growth. So we'll reflect that then in our 2015 budget projections for the City Commission. I just wanted to make the Commission aware of of that study, and just to put it in perspective, their estimate In terms of accuracy, they told us we would be about that 28,000 figure in 2015, and we've reached it in 2014. So it appears that they're fairly accurate, especially when they're revising these estimates to include an increase. What'll happen in 15 years is your guess is as good as mine, but these are the best numbers that we have, and I think we'll be using them for planning purposes moving forward. If there's no questions, then I have one additional item.
Mr. Kessel,
Yes.
you know, one point that maybe we should make, the public listens to us talk about these things and all the infrastructure that we're building right now, and would probably be interested to hear that, by and large, the infrastructure that we're doing this year, last year, this year, and the following year are going to be capable, that infrastructure is going to be capable of handling this population, correct?
Yes, it's a great point to make. When we've sized the infrastructure projects that have been going forward, we've used the figure of 42,500. So for the most part, as long as the growth happens where we thought it would happen, and that's based on plats and expectations of plats coming into the city, we should be covered for the vast majority of that kind of a population gain. So we will have extra capacity in our system once the projects that are on our CIP list are complete, once they're all complete, to support a population of around that 42.5. Again, as long as it's in the areas that we've placed that infrastructure.
And that doesn't mean that we won't need more infrastructure, but by and large, what's going in the ground today will accommodate.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The next item is just an awareness item. The Bakken Center, formerly known as the Afro Bakken Center, is organizing a diversity picnic. That picnic is scheduled for Sunday, May 4th from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Rec Center. It's a free event to the public. The City of Dickinson is sponsoring that event, and the Dickinson Area Chamber of Commerce is helping to promote that. I thought Mr. Easy was going to be in the audience this evening to talk further about it. He has invited the governor, several of our local sports or athletes to be in attendance. There is also going to be ethnic food available for people to partake in. So it's hopefully everybody can come and enjoy the diversity that is happening in Dickinson. Then I have one final comment. We had a meeting with several landowners along 40th Street. We discussed the 40th Street project specifically. It is item number 25 on your capital improvements project list. The project is just over a $7 million project. That's the engineer's estimate of the project's value. The proposal that we made to the landowners was that the city would invest just over $5 million in that project, and that $2 million would be required of local landowners to also invest and complete the scenario to pay for the project. We also needed some right-of-way on the north side of 40th. When the south side was platted, it was platted with enough right-of-way to accommodate the street section that is required there, but the north side was platted much earlier and does not have the appropriate right-of-way distances to accommodate the infrastructure project. So at the time of the meeting, we did not use special assessments on that project because of our financing list. As you are aware, we're going to be over $100 million in debt, and to special assess a project means that we are the bank. So we obtain the financing, and then we get paid back over the course of time. So to allocate additional funds to this project means we'd either have to increase our debt, which we may or may not be able to do, or we reallocate resources from a project lower on the list to this project. We reviewed at least 3 different options for dispersing the $2 million. We used the traditional 3 that special assessment projects use, which is an equal assessment based on each parcel, a square footage breakdown, and then a linear foot breakdown. Our hope was that within 30 days, we did provide a draft agreement of the 40th Street project, and that they would be able to achieve consensus of some kind within 30 days so that we could bid the project, award the project, and construct it beginning yet this year. Since that time, I've had some conversations with the landowner group and some staff, and there may be an alternative that would allow special assessments if we break the project into two different pieces and essentially do the underground 1 year and then do the surface improvements later. In that scenario, the underground infrastructure expectation is to cost about $1.4 million. If we were to special assess that amount, that means we would be relegated to using the three financing mechanisms, or three benefit scenarios that I mentioned earlier, which is an equal assessment, square footage, or linear foot. But it would allow us to at least get the underground completed this year. And as long as we kept those special assessments to a short financing period, I believe we could probably get that project began this year. And by short, I mean 3 years or less. When we were doing the impact program for commercial projects such as this would be, we were doing 5-year paybacks. But because of our tight financing scenario, I'm not sure 5 years is appropriate. So that encompassed the meeting that we held. We had Brant Malsom from KLJ explain the project. I explained the financing similar to how I've done this evening. I reviewed the capital improvements project, and then Attorney Coling went over the agreement with the landowners. And then we tried to answer as many questions as we could. I know there's a great many of the landowners in the audience this evening, and I think they would they would like an opportunity to address the commission this evening. So with that concludes my report on 40th, and unless there's any questions.
Yeah, let me first ask if there are any commissioners that have questions of Mr. Kessel. Okay, I do see a number of adjacent landowners out there. If you guys would like to address us, please do so. Know ahead of time, we're not going to make any decisions tonight. We want to hear the story, and if you want to give us part of yours, that would be great.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Fitter, and I just want a little handout for you guys.
Sure.
Thank you.
As you know, we had the meeting on, excuse me, April 17th. But before I get started, I'd just like to commend Mr. Jackson on this project. I seen in the paper, so job well done. On the revised edition, I guess, Sean, you're looking at just doing the water and sewer first, correct? On this project. And the only problem we have on that is, if you see, we are building we also need the storm sewer to run our project. Even though we don't have any water sewer in our property right now, and that comes up with it. We did get a building permit on April 1st for our, it's called the Hub Convenience Stores, and it'll be located right there on the Highway 22 and 40th Street. We did pay our water connection. We did have a sewer connection fee with that permit. We'd like the construction to start ASAP. On that stuff, we are building a separate structure to house an automatic car wash at a cost of more than $1 million. The car wash will not be able to operate without the storm sewer available on that. The water and sewer would be separate just to run the business, but we'd not be able to discharge the water out of the car wash without the storm sewer. Couple things when we had this meeting. What we were given, I guess, was, I thought it was 2 weeks, Sean, but maybe you thought 30 days, but it was 2 weeks, wrap-up plans in approximately 2 weeks with that.
That was the design of the project itself. Would take
Okay.
an additional 2 weeks.
But the funding was not 2 weeks?
30 days to review the
Okay.
agreement and come to consensus.
Okay. Which and then turns around and adds another 21 days for the bidding process, correct?
Yes, we couldn't bid the project until, yeah, we
Okay.
get achieved consensus.
I guess in that timeline that we had, would it even be able to finish in after the 51 days? That's the question I have. What I'm trying to do is, if you guys can find the financing up front, rather than have the landowners take care of it, we can actually move forward with this project a lot quicker than what it is right now. Couple other bullet points I'd like to go over too is, and I can't speak for everybody, but I think the 12 owners, did you notice the 12 landowners, Sean, or do they know that, or do they have the meetings from the minute?
We didn't take meeting minutes, but I'm not even sure if we distributed the 12 landowners to the city commission, so they may not know those, Mr.
Okay.
Fritter.
I guess what my opinion is, if you have 30 days, I don't know if some of the corporations that are on there have enough time to actually have their attorneys look at their fees and everything else of that nature to get back within the 30 days also. So that's another hindrance of us actually trying to get it done in that timeline. I can't speak for them, but with us know how it works. Do you have any questions on the bullet points I gave you guys or not, or have you read through them, or?
I do have one, Mr. Fritter,
Yes.
and I expect we'll hear from some others here this evening, but
Yep.
you make a statement in one of your buildings, nobody really cares if the projects are special assessments or not. Am I to hear that at least it's your opinion that there's consensus out there that an improvement district,
I guess, Mr. Jackson, I don't think any of the landowners liked the way it was handled at the meeting to come up with the funds up front. And to say, if we want this project done, we need the funds within 30 days, or else this project might not get done. As you know, we've been trying to work on this project for quite a while. Over a year, probably closer to 18 months. A couple of other problems we had in the last probably 2 to 3 weeks was flooding of that road, maintenance issues, or however you want to talk it, but mainly on 40th, it's more of a stormwater sewer problem than is anything, and probably Mr. Zaroff can probably elaborate more on that too.
I agree with you, Mr. Fitter. It's real difficult on that 40th to maintain that road the way it is. I mean, we did mill it and blade it, I think, 10 days ago. I was out there this morning, and you can't tell we even touched it. The stormwater issues, it'd take a significant amount of dollars to do a temporary fix. And I guess that's what we need to determine, too. If we don't do the project, how many dollars do we want to spend to make it passable?
And I don't think it's going to get any better in the near future. Has all the commissioners reviewed the plans on the 40th, or?
I think commissioners are aware of the general construction goal out there. As far as detail review of plans,
Yeah.
no. Mr. Fitter, anything else?
Not right now. I don't know if anybody else needs to talk about it or nothing. There also is an email I attached to the back.
Sure.
That was last fall. And I guess if you can read that also, but it basically tells me that 40th Street will be bid in the spring and completed by 2014.
Why don't we see if there's anybody else that wants to speak, and maybe when we're finished here, either Mr. Kubis or I see Mr. Malsom in the audience can talk about some of the timing issues and all.
Thanks for your time.
Anybody else wish to address the commission?
Yes, I'm William Reed. I'm with IPS Coiled Tubing. Also on your land maps, you're showing me as Warrior. That was our older subsidiary.
So where is your property?
My property is on 40th Street East. This is the maps we were given last week.
North side,
South side,
south side?
south side, southeast.
Okay.
In the lowest point of that street. It last year was bad for us, and this year was dramatically worse with that recent snowstorm we had. My yard completely flooded. We had the road ran through my yard. It was pretty interesting. We had over 2 feet of water in some areas. Cost me approximately $20,000 in downtime just due to not being able to get to my customers in a timely manner. And on top of it, the equipment breakdowns, clutches, drive lines, and manpower it costs to get the equipment out. And I've been up here for going on 4 years, and I moved to Dickinson, and I'm a part of the community. And we originally were in Richardson, and we came here. This will be our 3rd year here in that lot. And that road has been bad. It's been bad since we got here, and with the increased traffic, it's hard to maintain. I see that. And I also see that we want to put sewer and water in the street to provide city sewer and city water to the people on the north side of the street. And when we had our meeting earlier this week, it seemed, I said, I'm new to all this. We just got into this. We had a letter, but it seemed like that city sewer and water that's going to be provided to the north side of the street is also going to be provided to the people beyond what the map was showing me, beyond the immediate landowners here. Now, that was one of the concerns, is why do these immediate landowners have to front the money to provide access for people who will have it in the future? I guess I heard an estimate that this 40th Street takes in excess of over 500 acres of water down it. I believe probably in 20 years ago, that was an area that was not really probably even farmed due to that fact of always being a soft soil. And so I'm not the landowner. You know, I work for my company. I'm representing them here today. But to ask, I know a company of my size, I can't speak for Halliburton, but 30 days is nearly not enough time to make a decision on this. So I feel bad for this gentleman here. I think he's been struggling with this for about 3 years now. Long enough. And I wish we would have been told about this 6 months ago, 3 months ago, instead of a week ago. Because we already are in the construction season, and it was tossed back and forth last week that even if this does get approved, then somehow 12 landowners of different corporations get together on some kind of an agreement, which is an act of Congress in itself, that this project will still be pushed until 2015. And then for me personally, once again, my yard will flood, and once again, I will incur costs that as a tax-paying landowner here in the city for my company, I do not see why I should be incurring those costs. But I'm going to take notes, pass this along to my corporate legal, and I'm sure they'll be getting in contact with everybody here. But I came here more or less as a citizen. I wouldn't want my wife driving down that road. And I felt bad for the people driving down that road. I saw numerous bumpers ripped off out there. It was pretty interesting to see that. And I don't know where the insurance companies are with that, but it is bad. Like you said, you drove it down this morning, and it's a great speed trap. They slow down, but beyond that, that's about all the road's useful for. I just hope we can come to a resolution on this, but the 1 month time frame seemed a bit drastic. That was all I really had to say to the commissioners.
Okay, appreciate your comment, and just a couple of things.
Sure.
And I think we all recognize the need.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's late or not, I think we all recognize the need.
Yes.
You did make, I think you asked a question about the fact that some of these services were going to be available to others who aren't adjacent to the project.
That's correct.
And that's true. That's true. But we also have to recognize that it's a $7 million project and that the city is ready to do $5 million of that. And that's exactly why.
I understand, and last week the word unprecedented was thrown around a bit, that this was unprecedented times for Dickinson, which it is, and unprecedented measures need to be used. And I said I have not been on many planning boards in my career, but it seemed to me to ask companies to front the money for a city road was pretty unprecedented. And I said, that seemed drastic. And $2 million is quite a hunk of money for anybody. I wish I had that too, but go ahead.
I think I'm hearing you say, though, that you're not averse to joining and paying some of the costs. It's just
I
how
believe my
how it will be
corporate, I
done.
cannot speak for them completely, but my initial contacts with them, they were blown away by that.
With any participation?
At this very point in time, yeah, just hearing this, when we had this meeting, Thursday, and here we are Monday. It was a holiday weekend, and the initial comments were, they were pretty surprised. I'm not saying that they won't, and I can't speak for them, but the initial shock was pretty.
And I don't
very
want to
taken
put
away.
you on the spot.
Yes.
But you're acknowledging that you're going to benefit from the project.
I would benefit from the project,
Sure.
correct. I'm part of me. And I can also probably do things to my yard to defer the water, but it still doesn't rectify the situation we have. And I understand there is a problem. We all understand there's a problem, or else we wouldn't be standing here today. But I guess it was, for me, it was the time frame
Sure.
and the involvement in the community. I know I see we pay taxes here. I've been paying permit fees down that road for the last 3 years from the county, and but this is a city road. And I'm not sure when that transition happened, but I was wondering where the tens of thousands of dollars of permit fees I've placed to travel that 1 mile section from my facility to Highway 22 have gone. Because the maintenance that was down that road is not justifiable in what I've seen in 3 years of being here in that facility. So that's where I was at with this today, but I wanted to come here to speak my behalf as a concerned
Sure.
citizen.
Sure. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks. Anybody else? Anybody else want to address the project or address the commission?
One last thing. I guess my last thing is the emergency services, if they go down that road and they can't get to anywhere, what are we doing? And it's gonna happen. So we need to come up with a plan, and like I said, the 30 days is just not, I don't think, viable for a few of the landowners. And the
we're
longer
getting
we
that
wait,
message, and
yeah, and the longer we wait, the longer it might not get done. Thank you.
this is a great example when we go to the legislature and talk about impacts. This particular street is a great example.
I just wanted to point out too about I have over 300 employees that work in our office on that street. If there was,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Just go ahead and give us your name.
Tim Gross with Wyoming Casing. We currently have 300 employees that work in that location. If there was an emergency, I'm very concerned whether police, ambulance, or fire could get down that road to provide the service that we have as a landowner in the city of Dickinson. When we received our plot, for us to get it zoned to what we needed to construct, we had to be annexed into the city, otherwise we would not get our zoning. And as far as, yes, we would receive benefit from that road, but the city has also received benefit in our property taxes. We pay a substantial amount of property taxes for the property we have there and the buildings that we have, which you're receiving that benefit, and part of that is our benefit is I would think, is to have a road and not have to pay for it. Because currently we're paying a substantial amount of property taxes, and the services we're getting is water and sewer, which we're paying for, and other than that, we're not really getting any other services from the city. So I think both parties would benefit from this, and it doesn't seem like the landowners should have to pay for a city street. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Kessel, unless you can answer the question, I'd be interested in hearing what timeframes you are looking at right now for construction. I understand that these plans are close to being bid, and I'm wondering about completion dates. Can you answer those questions, or do we need to get one of the engineers to?
Well, I'll take a step, President Jackson. As I understand it, Mr. Malsom from KLJ, when he addressed the group on Thursday night, mentioned that they are 2 weeks at the long end of completing the design, and most of those design details that are yet to be completed are related to individual points of access on parcels. Where exactly do the landowners want the access to be? It's those kinds of small details that yet. So assuming that they could meet on a timely basis, he thought 2 weeks would be more than enough to get the design done on that roadway. So then after that, it becomes bidding the project and awarding that project, and maybe Mr. Kubis can talk more directly to those timeframes. I would like to mention just a couple things based on the presentations this evening. 30 days I recognize as being a difficult time frame, but it was more in recognition of trying to get the project done this year than anything else. If it takes 60 days or 90 days, I think that's fine. It just puts in jeopardy when the project could be completed. You may be looking at an initiation this year and a completion next year. So there's no magic to the 30-day window other than trying to get it done this year. I wanted to also address the permit fee question. Those permit fees don't come to the City of Dickinson. I believe I answered that on Thursday as well. Those fees stay with the county. We don't participate in that fee system. We have made application and intend to participate in that system, and I believe we'll be the first city to actually participate in the uniform permitting. So we will get those fees, or at least it appears we'll get those fees, but we have not been getting them to this point. And then just one comment on property taxes, and you're certainly right that you all have been paying city property taxes. And I know it's, most people don't understand that collectively, out of all the property taxes that we collect within the City of Dickinson, it doesn't pay for the police budget. That budget alone exceeds the amount of property taxes that we collect within the City of Dickinson. So that's a surprise to most people when they hear that. And so I just wanted to mention that roads, sewer and water projects are not paid for using a property tax system. Those are usually a fee or enterprise-based revenue, and that's how we're funding those. So it's two different systems. So with that, I don't know if Mr. Kubis can talk to timeframes with regard to bidding and such.
I'm wondering specifically about construction completion.
Well, and I might have to have Mr. Malsom fill in on some time frame of construction, but just in a perfect world, if we had 2 weeks to finalize the project, 3 weeks to advertise, and say we could set a special meeting and award it in 1 week, that's 6 weeks out before we could officially start construction June 1st, more likely June 15th to begin construction. I guess I would ask Mr. Malsom to come up and talk about the duration of construction, but it is a large project with large underground, storm sewer especially, that is going to take a full season. And starting at June 15th, I don't know if that's a full season. I think we could get a majority of the project completed. Weather in the fall is always interesting, but we could have enough of the project built to make it functional and maintainable. I don't know that we could get our pavement section on, but maybe if KLJ could answer that more clearly.
Commissioner Jackson, other commissioners, ideally, we should already have stakes in the ground. Material should be stockpiled on site, and we should be, notice proceed given the contractor and be under construction if we really want to try and get this thing done this year. In all reality, I don't think you can get it done this year anymore. We can get a lot of it. How far we get, whether we'll just have to, we can only work as long as we can. I don't think we can tell the contractor to complete it this year, or the price would just be astronomical. You can't get enough people out there anyway to.
Do you think, Mr. Malsom, that we can complete underground this year?
I think you could probably get the majority of your trunk lines in. There's a coordination deal with some of the service lines and so forth, and that's another thing. It wasn't just driveways, it's service lines, water and sewer services. I don't think we could get all that coordinated and done, because we still got to maintain traffic. There's a lot of businesses, so I mean, it's going to be some moving things around back and forth. And that's the reason why we're trying to see it bid as a project where we have one general overseeing all that coordination and effort and making it come together, because we'll be able to build half the street when we start to build the street, once we get the utilities in the ground. And we have enough room then to maintain traffic on half, move it over so we can finish the other half, those sorts of things. So we would always be able to maintain traffic, but at this point in the game, I don't think we'll ever get the pavement this year.
And that doesn't surprise me, but the water and sewer would be pretty critical. Anybody else have questions for?
The storm is critical too, right?
Well,
I mean,
to the overall project, it's not going to take care of the problems that like what is experienced at Warrior without the storm sewer system. It just isn't.
And if we could get storm, we could maybe maintain it through the winter at least.
Yeah, we'd have to come up with some ways what we try and get some water into the system, but then it'd be kind of an uncontrolled type thing, and then. But
Any other commissioners with questions here? Thank you, Mr. Molson. Mr. Kessel, how do you want to proceed here?
Well, we can certainly hold another landowner meeting and discuss, the option of doing a underground, or if they need more time than the 30 days, we can certainly go forth and try again, and then bring back information to the commission.
Well, I certainly agree with Mr. Molson that it'd be good to bid the entire project with one contract. We could probably phase completion dates in some way. But I do think that you guys who are sitting out here listening to this, I think there's a reality about any hard surfacing on that road. And whether we like that or not, we may as well understand it. I think that's just a reality, whatever else happens here. Well, okay, we'll move from there and let you guys work on this some more.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here.
Mr. Kessel, can we set up a meeting? Or after the meeting?
Commissioner Jackson, if you don't mind, if I could leave the dais and meet with them to come up with a date and return. I think the majority of my items are completed this evening.
Sounds good. Okay, we will move on to public safety and hear reports from the fire department and the police department. We'll start with Mr. Sivak and the fire department.
Vice President Jackson, Commissioners, tonight I'll present the activities of the Dickinson Fire Department for the first quarter of 2014 and preface that by saying it is just a little unnerving, however, that when my report is announced, half of the room leaves. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to start tracking whether that happens every time or not. The red columns indicate 2012, the year 2012. The green is 2013. The blue is 2014. In the first quarter of 2014, you'll notice that first grouping of 3, that's alert crew responses. Our alert crew responses were down to just about 2012 levels. You see, in 2013, we really spiked with alert crew responses. That was also when we started to have a real negative impact on our volunteer firefighters that make up those alert crews responding from home and from work. That's where we started to get responses from some of our employers that support these people, asking just, really how many times a day do we have to let these people go? We were able to change some of our response structure. We were able to hire a full-time firefighter. And in 2014, in the next grouping of 3, you see under full-time responses, the blue column again for 2014, you notice the full-time response is way up compared to the previous year. Alert crew response is back down. We had a positive impact by restructuring and by adding a very limited amount of staff. We had a very positive impact on what we were able to do with full-time personnel versus always calling out the volunteers. That had a positive impact then on the employers and on family life of the volunteers also. The next grouping of 3 is officer in charge. That's a single officer, whether he's a full-time position or whether it's a volunteer position. That's steadily increasing. In 2014, 36 call-outs in the first quarter. General alarm responses. In the first quarter of 2014, we've already had 3 general alarms. Unfortunately, one of those alone has probably caused us to exceed our total fire dollar loss of the previous years, unfortunately. 5 general alarms in the first quarter of 13, 3 in 2012. Night duty responses, that's from 9:30 at night to 6:30 in the morning. We have volunteer firefighters at the station, now supplemented on certain nights at least, because we're not fully staffed out, but now supplemented by a full-time position also. We're really seeing an increase in incident responses through that time frame. 13 responses in the first quarter for night duty versus 4 in 2013, 6 in 2012. Special calls, that could be hazardous materials, or that could be medical assist for Dickinson Ambulance, and we've had 1 of those in 2014. First quarter incident response totals 113 compared to 96 in 2013 and 95 in 2012. Still a hefty increase over the previous 2 years, and 19% over 2012, 18% over 2013. We're not going to see, unfortunately, we're not going to see that stop or level out as long as that growth is predicted. As long as that growth and the activity in the community is going to continue, I'm afraid our response increases are going to continue also. Fire prevention and public education in the first quarter included 280 routine inspections, 188 follow-up inspections generated by those, 44 construction, 3 child care, 23 miscellaneous, and again, that's where we capture fire suppression system tests, fire drills, complaint investigations, fire prevention or public education activities, tours, lectures, and demonstrations. There was 7 in the first quarter. 21 plan reviews of various construction and projects taking place in the first quarter. Quarterly fire department activities, we hired another firefighter in January of 2014. Staff took part in a safety lecture at the Dickinson High School Child Development class. We also took part in an event called the Silver Spoon event at Jefferson Elementary, where fire department staff had ice cream with the students. The same thing at Lincoln Elementary, fire department staff had lunch with the students. Career Expo at Dickinson State University, we spoke to 20 students. At Career Expo at the Rec Center, we had a fire safety demonstration that staff conducted there. Quarterly fire department training, regular monthly training, January, February, and March. January was on social media, Facebook pages, and proper use, or in fact improper use of social media is quite a huge deal for a fire department or for other public entities, and that's what that class was about. Courage to be Safe, again, is the 16 firefighter life safety initiatives. Communications, radio communications, and pipeline emergencies. It was all part of the January training. February training was auto extrication. And in March, it took us 2 nights to recertify all of our members in CPR. Special operations training, which takes place every month in addition to the regular training, included members attending a class on pipeline emergencies, elevator operations, and hazardous materials in March. Special training, we sent 8 firefighters again to the State Fire School, and we had several staff attend a hazardous materials contingency planning session hosted at the Law Enforcement Center.
Chief Seebeck.
Yes, sir.
If I could interrupt you.
You can.
Pipeline emergencies and hazardous waste. In light of some of the recent publicity with some of the rail incidents and pipeline incidents, could you comment a little bit more about that, what your department is doing? I think the public might be interested in that.
Well, the pipeline emergencies presentation is done annually by that group, by that coalition. Yet it touches on pipelines that in fact run through Dickinson, high pressure compressor stations and so on. It gives our members a understanding of where these things are located, contact numbers, and it helps us to determine the type of response that we would have in our response protocol as far as the impact that something going wrong could have in an area or in a community. The same with the hazardous material contingency planning meeting. It was very apropos because we're going to be having some trainings coming up this late spring and early summer with Burlington Northern Santa Fe concerning tankers and the concerns that are out there and the transportation of crude oil and ethanol and things like that. That session dealt with developing a plan, the very basics of developing a plan. Chief Dossinger and I, and along with Administrator Kessel, have been talking about doing a very preliminary type of planning session and involving the commissioners, and we're in the process of working on building that right now to put something on the table in front of you that would be a good first step on if something would happen, if we'd have a rail disaster like Castleton. How does that impact the community? Where does a half-a-mile evacuation zone really land? How many people does that impact? What would we really do? It would probably bring a lot of different players to the table, and it's something that's being worked on. And we hope to have in front of you in a short while, actually. So we can't wait too long for it.
Thank you.
The last thing I'd like to mention is the spring cleanup, citywide spring cleanup, which is an annual event. This year will be May 3rd through May 10th. Everybody received an informational brochure in their utility bill. Aaron Prouse and the Solid Waste Department did a great job of putting that together and putting the information on that for us. Again, trash bags are available at the Central Fire Station or at the Chamber of Commerce for individuals or groups, employee groups or civic groups that would like to get together and clean up an area of town. I don't think anybody can disagree that we really need it. The town really needs it. We'd like to encourage individuals, employee groups, and civic groups to get together, maybe get some competitive spirit going on this thing and really get out there and see what we could do and have a positive impact on how the community looks. That concludes my report.
Chief, excuse me, one question. Do you make contact with the construction sites that have a lot of debris flown around there?
We don't. It's handled through the Code Enforcement Department under some of their codes, and I do believe those contacts are made with those locations.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd just like to follow up on the cleanup a little bit more. So anytime during that week, or I suppose even outside of that time frame, if we've got a school group, service club, whoever it may be, contact.
Call the fire department. Just call the central station number, and we'll help you either find an area if you're having a difficult time trying to locate an area to clean up, or usually what happens is individuals or groups will call us and say, you know, this is where we're at. This is the area we'd like to clean up. Is that okay? Generally, it will be. And we'll provide bags, and we try to get some media coverage for them. There's going to be some passes available to the rec center, courtesy of Parks and Rec, that helps this along for groups that get out there and clean up. But we really need to get the community engaged. And everybody's busy. You know, I know that's probably the biggest issue. But if we could get the community engaged in some type of competitive spirit or something, we can make a heck of an impact on what's laying around out there.
So a group could take a couple blocks of street.
Absolutely.
Or a half mile of highway, or whatever it may be.
Yes. We have a great partnership in this. I want to mention also with Marathon Oil and their partners in that energy field. They actually are going to take a portion of Highway 22 going out north to their facility. They did that last year, and they have already committed that they're going to do something like that again this year. So we have a partnership on that side with them also, extending beyond city limits.
Okay, so they should call your department.
Yes, sir.
And
We'll
that
take
phone
care of
number
it.
is?
456-7625.
7625.
Thank you.
You, Chief.
Just a minute, Chief Seelock.
Yes, ma'am.
Question I've had comments on commercial buildings, and I don't know if that's yours or the inspection department, regarding sprinkler systems in all commercial buildings?
Sprinkler systems are driven by both the building code and the fire code, and it depends on several things. It depends on the size of the building, the occupancy that's going to be in the building, and the building construction type. So just to say that you're going to be a business in a commercial building, and that means you must have a sprinkler system, isn't necessarily true. It depends on all the other factors. What size of the building are you building? What's your construction type? What's your occupancy? Who are you? What do you do? Those are the things that drive whether you're going to have a sprinkler system or not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, we'll move to the Police Department. Chief Dassinger.
Hi, good evening, Commission. I have before you the first quarter report for the Dickinson Police Department for 2014. As HR Mrs. Nominick had mentioned earlier, we do have 4 open positions with our department. We do currently have 4 job offers on the table, and we are currently going through the background phase of that. 3 of those positions are at the patrol level on our street officers, and we do have 1 open spot in investigations. Calls for service for the first quarter. We responded to 5,751 total calls for the first quarter of 2014. That's up slightly. It's up about 273 calls for the same quarter last year. We conducted 1,497 traffic stops for the first quarter of 2014. That is down slightly from the first quarter last year, down 229 stops. 399 total traffic accidents for the first quarter of 2014. That is an increase of 95 accidents compared to 2013 first quarter. Our truck regulatory department, we did receive a new Ram 1500 pickup. You might have seen it around town. That was provided by the Oil Impact, Criminal Justice Oil Impact Grant funding. That vehicle is equipped with portable scales. We no longer have to take the vehicles out to the Baylor building to utilize their scales. Gives us much more flexibility in where we can do overweight enforcement. So far, he has conducted 48 truck regulatory stops for this quarter. 18 of those have resulted in overweight violations, and total fines have equaled a little over $10,000 for those overweights. We have sent 38 officers, attended 17 different trainings for the first quarter of 2014. Training is very important for our department. As you all know, we have a very young department, and we're trying to prepare for any type of scenario that we might see. Are there any questions?
Mr. President.
Mr. Steiner.
Chief, on the overweight trucks, that can't be the water trucks or the oil trucks. I mean, they're basically limited by the capacity that they can hold. So is it the trucks with the equipment on or the machinery that's causing these violations?
You still can have an overweight water truck or an overweight, hot oil truck. It depends on capacity. A lot of it depends on axles, length of the vehicle. There's several factors involved there. A lot of times you might even see a water truck going down our streets that you can actually see the water splashing out the top of it. That's a pretty good sign that that vehicle is overloaded.
Okay, thank you.
Chief Dassinger, sometimes I wonder, we have a lot of people that watch this meeting, Channel 19. If they had a son, daughter, grandchild who might have interest in law enforcement, where would you recommend they start? Where do they encourage that person as far as schooling, training, et cetera, et cetera? How do they get on that path?
First thing, I would encourage them to contact a police officer, be it myself or someone at the patrol division, to actually sit down and talk and visit about the law enforcement career, and then provide them some guidance. Maybe they're interested in working for a municipal, a law enforcement agency.
So you would welcome a call like that?
Absolutely. We get them on a regular basis. And, we have several intern requests throughout the year from college kids that would like to sit down and visit with us and even maybe want to do an internship with us. And we're very open to that communications.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anything else for the chief? Thank you much, Chief Dassinger.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to a number of items having to do with our ongoing infrastructure projects. Mr. Zuroff, you're going to talk about the finished water pumping station?
I'll let Engineer Kubas, he wrote the memo on this project.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Zuroff. President and Commission, we have jointly bid a project for the finished water pumping station, and just as a short recap, this is going to be the large pump that will really service the City of Dickinson and the Southwest Water Authority's service area. We have a cost share, or cost participation agreement already in place with Southwest Water, and this project was actually bid through the North Dakota State Water Commission. Just recently, we received the letter from their consultant, Bartlett and West, who designed the project, recommending award of the project to the State Water Commission. And per the terms of our cost participation agreement, the City of Dickinson needs to concur in that award. So there were bids received, 2 bids actually. The project estimate was $9.25 million, and the low bid was received from John T. Jones Construction in the amount of $10,249,999. John T. Jones is currently working on 2 projects for the City of Dickinson. They're constructing our water reclamation facility and the influent pump station. Work on the 2 projects has been satisfactory to date, and staff would recommend that this commission recommends concurrence in the award to the State Water Commission. Do you have any questions on this project?
Any questions for Mr. Kubas? Do we know yet how much, looks like the bids were a little over the estimate. Do we have any idea yet how much our share will be of that overage?
Mr. President, there are several different categories of work that are being done in that building, and there's a share that the State Water Commission has for their pumping and piping, and a share that the city has. We anticipate that's going to break down to about a 50-50 share.
Okay.
So it should be about half of the
Could be something
project.
a little different than that. Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Kubas? If not, we need a motion recommending that award.
So moved.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart.
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. Looks like Ms. Marshik is going to talk to us about a couple projects.
Good evening, President Jackson, Commissioners. The first item I'd like to talk about this evening is a task order amendment to the task order we currently have with KLJ for the East 24-inch water main project on Broadway. This amendment would enter KLJ into agreement with the city to do construction administration, which is things like the staking, observation, inspections, record drawings. That amendment amount is for $345,000. The city staff recommends approval of this amendment. Do you have any questions for me on this one?
Ms. Marshik, this project been bid already?
The project, let me think about this one. I think we are going out for bid.
It's imminent.
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks,
Thank
okay.
you.
Any questions of Ms. Marshik? If not, we need a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. President.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart.
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries. Go ahead, Ms. Marshik.
The next item I have is for the west 24-inch water line. This project was bid on April 8th, and the low bid was submitted by Wagner Construction in the amount of $3,444,810. This project was estimated to be $5,450,000, so it came in under bid. So the city staff is recommending award of this project to Wagner Construction.
Questions or comments? If not, we need a motion to award the contract.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Oltmans.
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that motion carries. Anything else, Ms. Marshak?
That would do it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some reports from Mr. Kubus, it looks like.
Thank you. The first report I have is a request by staff to put out an RFP for design services for various transportation-related projects. The list, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look through that list, includes things like traffic counts, traffic studies, lighting improvement districts, street improvement districts, safety improvements, traffic signalization, and overall capacity improvements. We've been talking about a lot of large-scale transportation projects similar to the 40th Street discussion that we had today on State Avenue and 21st Street, and we've built many private streets that are connecting Dickinson to traffic generators now, like the new Menards, but we haven't tackled too many projects that will help increase capacity in town. If you'd note too, on the sheet that Administrator Kessel had passed out earlier, we did prioritize a project and recently moved up number 7 on the list. We moved it up to number 7, and that's for intersection signalization of what we estimated to be 5 intersections. So while several of these projects on this draft list are not budgeted expenses in 2014, the intersection signalization projects were budgeted for, and Administrator Kessel has worked that estimated $1.5 million into the budget. So we feel that these projects are desperately needed. Traffic just keeps continuing to increase, but with the limited ability of staff to put a project like these together and get them out to bid, we felt it was important to issue an RFP and get working on some of these projects, some of which we may be able to complete yet this year. Others, the more complicated ones, will probably be 2015 construction, but we need to get started on them soon. So with that, I guess I don't know that we need a motion from the commission, just some concurrence to move forward with an RFP. And it would in no way bind us to these projects on the list necessarily. So
It appears your intent is that a lot of this would actually be design, preparation plans and specs.
It would, most of it would be design, yeah. Some of it would be in a study phase, especially for the traffic signalization projects. Need to do some traffic counts and some traffic studies to make sure those types of projects are warranted. But the general feel is that there are several intersections, at least 5, that would warrant signals today.
Can you list those for us?
Those 5?
Give us an idea.
I have some. Everyone seems to have their favorites. I think the 2 that we have proposed right now, to use some DOT funding, would be 10th Avenue East and Villard, which has been a long-standing problematic intersection. The other one is State Avenue and Fairway, and then after that, the list, depending who you talk to, gets quite varied, and that's why we'd need the traffic study. But intersections that we've looked at in the past, Commissioner Steiner, were 9th Street and 10th Avenue East. On State Avenue, we've counted some traffic in 2012 at 12th Street and State Avenue, 15th Street and State Avenue. I don't know that we've counted traffic at 21st and State Avenue. As those roads used to go out into the county, well, that's not the case anymore. They carry considerably more traffic than they did just a couple of years ago. So that one might be on the list as well. I'm probably missing several of them. One of them we'd like to look at. It's got a signal now. The infamous left turn arrow on 21st Street and Highway 22. So there's a lot of intersections that we need to look at. Some of them might be signalized now, other ones aren't. 8th Street South and Highway 22 is, I think, had a signal in the past. Traffic is picking up again. So the first step would be to get the counts to really warrant them. And there's standard warrants, 7 warrants for traffic signals. And if you meet those, the signal oftentimes makes a lot of sense.
21st and State, that's basically the intersection that's going to leads out to Menards.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And that road is scheduled for reconstruction this summer, correct?
Correct. Well, it's on our list right now. but similar to a lot of these large street projects that we've been working on, obtaining right-of-way and the funding, well, we have a plan in place. Implementing it sometimes can be a challenge, and so I don't think there's a guarantee that State Avenue or 21st Street will get constructed this year. It's in our plan right now, though. We're budgeting for it. A signal, though, isn't yet, because, again, the signals are surely based off of traffic warrants, and we're not there yet. But I think we're getting close, so we'd look at a separate project that might include a signal for State Avenue and 21st.
Thank you.
If I may, Ms. Zuroff, maybe you could address 21st Street going west of States, and what our plan is in the short term for the maintenance of that road.
Well, we've met with the county. Majority of that road on 21st is county road. Like from the intersection up the hill on State, just past the Sierra Ridge, is in the city, and we're looking at some options of how we can keep it passable again until the project is complete, until 21st Street is built. We met with Elheiser in the county. We've come up with a plan of looking at probably the end of the month when the plants get up and running for asphalt, is to mill from the intersection up the hill, at least try to get a base and a temporary lift on that for the year, or for the summer, and then the county's going to patch and try to repair the rest of the road. There again, it's one of those roads that how much money do you put into it as a temporary fix? But right now, it doesn't look like that road is going to be constructed right away, and right now we need to do something with that intersection and up the hill. It's becoming a busy road, and that intersection is falling apart. So I think the end of the month is what we're looking at when we can get asphalt, of trying to mill that first section and putting at least a lift on it to get us by for the summer.
I have a question for you, Mr. Kubis. That State and Fairway, when the hospital opens in October, plus the new community center expansion, I think we're going to really have a nightmare there. Is that going to, are we looking at doing that signal light this year yet, hopefully?
States and Fairway, is that what you said? Oh.
Well, Commissioner Dukert, that was a project that we do have on our DOT list for receiving urban funding. It might be that that's a project that's better suited to move along with some local funding up the spreadsheet, but right now, if we could get plans designed, I would say yes, but these things take some time, and there is some lead time ordering traffic signals to actually get them in place. The other option could be a temporary signal that would go up. Right now, that intersection, it's getting very busy, but it handles a lot of traffic, I think, fairly well. Again, we need to count up the traffic, do like a 16-hour count, where you'd catch both your AM and your PM peaks, and see what kind of traffic we're dealing with. And I think we owe that to a lot of intersections in town, because I get complaints or suggestions, I'd say weekly, and everyone has their intersection. That's why I say, depending who you talk to, everyone has their busy intersection in their neighborhood. And I think we need to count a lot of those intersections and really come up with a scientific approach to prioritizing them. But I do believe State Avenue and Fairway, especially when the hospital comes online later in the year, is going to be very, very busy.
The reason I mention that one is because there's a lot of people that run that four-way stop too. I'm sure Chief Dossinger can verify that, but.
The last traffic count we did at that intersection verified that as well.
If I could, there's also a lot of intersections that are project-related that aren't in this budget because they are going to be a project expense. For instance, Dickinson Hills on West Business Loop has some temporary intersection signalization there, and along 30th. There's also signals along 30th, so that are, again, project expenses and not included in this 1.5 million. So there's a lot more intersections that could be signalized than just the ones in the budget itself.
Well, as I look at your list, everything there is important. I can't imagine any of us has any issue with doing the RFP. Any more comments?
They proceed.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kubis.
The next report that I'd like to give to the commission is on the construction administration guidelines. As you remember, back in December, the city had adopted construction standards and standard specifications for construction. And I think that's helped out quite a bit in our review anyway of plans that we've seen come in. By and large, we've had, I think, overwhelming acceptance of the standards. We're tweaking some details as we go on, as we expected. One issue that we haven't addressed yet was guidelines for construction administration. And then this would be the engineer in the field that's tracking quantities, making sure that the spec is being followed, working through items that need to be changed in the field. And while the city on our CIP projects have historically hired the consultant who designed the project, on development projects where they're building city water, sewer, and streets again, that level of construction administration has varied wildly from full-time inspection to, in some cases, possibly none at all. And we hope to really hone in and get some guidelines for the developers so they can put a cost to what this is going to cost their development to have an engineer in the field perform construction administration. One big variable is who would be the contracting entity for that. If the city would hire a consultant to be the construction observer out in the field, or if we would pass these guidelines along to developers and have them hire an engineer in the field to do that construction observation. Right now, we don't have a policy that I'm aware of that directs us one way or the other. So what we're looking for is some direction from the commission if we would like to see these contracts be with the city, hiring a consultant to perform the inspection, or if we were okay just setting these guidelines for construction administration and having the developer's consultant report back to the city. One thing I would add, these projects are really important because at the end of the day, we spend a large amount of money on our CIP road system and the water and sewer. And granted, those streets are wider and the water mains and sewer mains are larger, but after all these projects are completed, they're city infrastructure, and it's incumbent on the Public Works Department to maintain all of it. So it really is important that we get uniform construction administration, that a residential street that fails is just as problematic as some of these larger thoroughfares if we would have a failure on them. And we have seen a lot of those failures with, I think, a lot of the wet weather we've had lately. We've had some road failures in some residential subdivisions. So we'd like to get a better handle on it and looking for some direction from the commission.
I would not be opposed to the city hiring a contractor to take a look at this here, to review it and report back to the city. Kind of hesitant with the construction companies doing it themselves. Like you said, we ran into some issues with some of the streets now, and I believe that's how it was then. I don't think the city was able to get out there and take a look at it. I think it was just done and reported back to us that it was finished, and now we're seeing the problems with the street that you mentioned. Which brings to my second question. Are we having the contractors post a 2-year bond on the streets once they're completed? Did we do that? I know we're talking about it, so if the street fails within 2 years after.
Commissioner Stoughton, what our code calls for is a 1-year maintenance warrant, a 1-year bond.
1 year? Thank you.
I have long felt that we need to insert ourselves further into the, what I call construction engineering, inspection. I think there's a lot of degrees of how far we could insert ourselves. I think that the document we have in front of us is very good. It's a good step to trying to bring some consistency. I think we need to go a little further myself, and I know we'll get resistance from some folks with that move. But we have no consistency at all right now. It's the developers, engineers who are doing the inspection. And some of it's probably pretty good. Some of it's not very good at all. And inspection, by the way, is no panacea to the problems. There will still be issues, but we'll achieve a lot more consistency and a lot better quality control if we do that. And I'm very much in favor of it myself.
Well, with that, staff will probably continue to work on this, and I think the end goal might be some language in our improvement section of our subdivision ordinance, specifically spelling out how it will be managed and how it will be paid for. We have a lot of construction that's either just beginning or will be very soon. If we'd have general direction from the commission that we want to have this be a city-led construction inspection, I think that would be good, so we can start working with some of these developers and start working down that road of having the city hire the construction engineering for all of our projects, because like I mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, they all become ours to maintain, and we want to make sure that everything's getting applied uniformly across the board. So.
I think as we go through the process, we do need to revisit what we're doing with performance and payment bonds as well. However that becomes addressed. Any other comments on that issue? Go ahead, Mr. Kubas.
All right, the last item that I have is maybe a joint item, and it showed up in your packets. I don't know if electronically if it was in color, but a truck route has been brought up several times, I know, over the past many years. And I think if I'm stating this correctly, the official truck route in Dickinson is designated by signage. So if we put up a sign that says this is the truck route, that's it, and it becomes the legal truck route in town. The truck route that we've discussed as staff, and I can briefly go through it. If we approve this, we can get a map of it on our website and work towards signing it quickly. But of course, Highway 22 coming into town, until a bypass is built, coming from the north, is the route for trucks up until interstate. And was that a year or two ago? Trucks are not allowed south of I-94 on Highway 22. So trucks can take the route on Highway 22 to the interstate. Then they need to get on the interstate, either east or westbound, over to the east and west business loops, and then back into town. If they're on the west side of town, State Avenue to 8th Street South is the truck route, and on the east side of town, the business loop over to 6th Avenue Southeast, and then to 8th Street is the truck route. I don't think I don't know that we've gotten a lot of resistance to that being a truck route. The north side of town is a little more problematic, only until the truck bypass route is completed, and that's estimated to be completed in August of this year. But right now, where we would like to see the trucks head is up the newly constructed 30th Avenue, the interim bypass, and up to 40th Avenue, which right now is just a county gravel road. Most of the trucks are taking that route right now anyway because of the restrictions on 21st Street. So it's the unofficial truck route right now. And then, of course, like I had mentioned, in August, when the interim bypass would be completed, those trucks would head up to what's now County 33. I think I'm saying that correct. County Road 33rd Avenue. So the other thing in conjunction with this, and Administrator Kessel had touched on it earlier, is that the City of Dickinson has been nominated and approved to become the first municipal member of the Uniform County permitting system, which is, I believe, all of the oil and gas producing counties are members of this, and it's one centralized location that issues permits. Right now, getting an overweight permit in Dickinson is usually a phone call. It's not a formal process. We talked about collecting fees for that. We don't right now. The rule of thumb is that if you get a permit from the DOT or from Stark County to get to Dickinson, you're permitted to go through Dickinson. So we'd like to move forward with that. I'm not sure all the details on the contractual end of that, but I think in conjunction with designating an official truck route, we might look at designating some weight-restricted roads within Dickinson, and then we'd sure like to move forward and become that first municipal member of the Uniform County permitting system. So I'm not sure if we need a motion on that. Again, it's legal by signage. We just wanted to present this, and if you had any comments or suggestions to the truck route, I would sure love to hear them, and we can make adjustments to this before we'd sign anything.
The glaring thing that I see with the truck routes is State Avenue. And just being able to get off State Avenue as quickly as we can.
I know in talking with PD, they've been working with several of the companies local to State Avenue that had been using it a lot and asking them to find alternate routes, and they've been very accommodating. But right now, without having a specifically designated truck route or having State Avenue be weight restricted, it's legal to haul there. But I think the companies that have been hauling on State Avenue and have been approached by the PD have been very accommodating to find other routes. And this would hopefully end that problem.
Anybody else have comments on truck routes? Okay. And then do we need to take some kind of formal action on the permitting? No?
Not this evening.
Okay.
With that, that concludes the engineering report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kubus. We'll move on to Public Works. Mr. Zuroff, you want to talk about a water reservoir, it looks like.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. On April 8th, 2014, 2 bids were received on the west side 1 million gallon storage facility for pressure zone 2. Low bidder was Caldwell Tanks Incorporated for $2,977,000. The engineer estimate was $3,023,600, $3,023,610. We've reviewed this, and staff recommends awarding the contract or the bid to Caldwell Tanks Incorporated.
Okay, any questions? Which water reservoir is this? Is this
the west side 1 million gallon? It's the one up in Meyer subdivision.
Okay. Any comments, questions? If not, we need a motion to award the contract.
I'll make a motion to award the contract to Caldwell Tanks, Inc.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, we'll vote. Mrs. Dukart.
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. Go ahead, Mr. Zuroff.
Thank you, Commission. I just have a couple reports for project updates. Lift Station 12 the bids will be opened on that the 29th of this month. That's the next lift station on the north side of the interstate off 15th Street. And then we have a chip seal bid that'll be opened the 28th of this month. So those will be the next upcoming bids that I will present at the next commission, hopefully, with a recommendation.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Zuroff? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Move to community development. Mr. Josephson, I assume that you're going to take these tonight?
Yes, I'm here. Mr. Curton is off today. I've got a couple things to bring in front of you. One of them, there's 2 second readings of rezonings, and then there are also 2 final plats that will come before you tonight. The first rezoning petition is consideration to approve second reading and final passage of ordinance number 1546. This is a rezoning. It's a rezoning petition from agriculture to limited industrial for approximately 62-acre parcel situated to the east of the new Public Works building and approximately 1,200 feet east of 35th Avenue East and south of Interstate 94. The Planning and Zoning Commission and city staff recommended approval contingent upon 2 conditions of approval. There is no change from the first reading, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, this is the second reading of an ordinance. We'll ask if there is anybody in the audience that wants to comment on this ordinance. Anybody want to comment? Hearing none, any questions from commissioners? If not, we'll look for motion.
Make the motion to approve second reading and final passage of ordinance number 1546.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, we will vote. Mr. Oltmans.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. Go ahead, Mr. Josephson.
Yes, the second rezoning in front of you tonight is for Dickinson Energy Park LLC. Consideration to approve the second reading and final passage of ordinance number 1547. This is a rezoning petition from agriculture to general industrial for a 40-acre parcel situated to the west of the existing Energy Center North Industrial Subdivision. The site is located on the north side of 33rd Street Southwest. It is approximately one half mile west of the intersection of Highway 22 and 33rd Street Southwest. The Planning and Zoning Commission and city staff recommend approval contingent upon 2 conditions of approval. There is no change from the first reading. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions? We'll ask if there's anybody from the public that would like to comment on ordinance 1547. Any comments? If not, we look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve second reading and final passage of ordinance number 1547.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not, we'll vote. Mrs. Dukart.
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans.
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries.
Okay, thank you. You have 2 final plats to consider tonight. The first one is for the Public Safety Center to approve the resolution. I don't have a number here. I guess we assign one when it's approved. It is the Public Safety Building final plat. This is a final plat request for the future public safety building. The property is approximately 9 acres in area and is situated west of State Avenue and north of 21st Street. The Planning and Zoning Commission and city staff recommend approval.
And this would be resolution,
President, this will be Resolution 26-2014.
Move to approve, Mr. President.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve the Public Safety Center plat. Any more discussion? Not, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Oltmans?
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries.
Your final item is a final plat for Sundance Village. It's a consideration to approve the resolution. This is a final plat request for Sundance Village. The property is approximately 208 acres in area and is situated east on 109th Southwest and 1 mile westerly of the intersection of 10th Avenue East, 21st Street East. The plat consists of 137 lots. The development agreement was approved in 2012. The Planning and Zoning Commission and City Commission recommend approval. I see there's a representative out there in the audience today, and this is for your consideration and approval.
Okay, any questions or comments from commissioners?
I'll make a
None?
motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not, we'll vote. Mr. Oltmans?
Aye.
Mrs. Dukart?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. Anything else that any commissioners have that they'd like to bring up this evening? If not, anybody from the public?
Commissioner Jackson, I believe Mr. Easy is here. He is, I referenced earlier with regards to the diversity picnic that's going to be held, and I think he wanted to address the commission.
Certainly. Would you like to do that?
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Yeah. I'm very grateful for granting me another audience to be here. The last time I was here was on, I believe, January 6th this year. And that was actually to introduce myself, my organization then, and tell you guys what we're about and how we intend to work in the city and within the city. So far from then, I've had the opportunity to work with the city administrator, Mr. Sean Kessel, extensively over time. And we've had several meetings here at the City Hall and discussed a lot of issues with regards to their developments on what's going on, you know, how many people are coming in and what type of people are coming in and their needs and all whatnot. I've also had several meetings with the Office of the Senator, Hyde Camp, and same issue we've talked about, and we are working together on the same issue to improve the lives of the community, and especially to those that are coming into town to make sure they get the right guidance and counsel and the right direction. While discussing with Sean and also with the Senator's office, we saw the need for a diversity picnic whereby we create a forum for the community people to meet together, those new ones, the people that have been here forever, and those that are coming in. Just a conducive family environment atmosphere for all to meet together, get to know each other, enjoy ethnic foods, different culture, different diversity. And we also consulted with DSU, volleyball team, basketball team, also with the Dickinson High School athletics basketball team, to be there, to be present, to play some sports, and enjoy the music, and while getting to meet other newcomers in the city. So the bottom line, we're just trying to create an environment and atmosphere that is family-oriented for everybody in the city to be there to come and have a good time. And it's going to be on May the 4th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Actually, we're going to start setting up probably by noon, but officially it's going to open by 3 p.m. and end by 7 p.m. We also went to the governor's office in Bismarck and intimated them of what we are doing. We actually extended an invitation to him, and they said they're going to honor it, but we're waiting for the final confirmation. So chances are highly that the governor is going to be here. If not, then our deputy governor is going to be here. And we've also consulted with Dickinson Police Department. I spoke with the chief. And the K9 unit is going to be here. It's going to be at the event demonstrating with the dog. Also consulted with the fire chief. And with the fire department, it's going to be tentative because they have some kind of training that same week. So hopefully they're going to be there, but if they can't make it, we'll also understand. So we've consulted with different churches, diverse churches, and we are knocking on the doors of all the communities, so we're just going out on a limb to make sure everybody shows up at the event. The last time I was here, you guys told me to, if need be, to come and tell you of what's going on. So given that, that's why I'm here today. And I'm equally extending the invitation to all of you and your families. It will be a great pleasure to have you all there, more especially while the governor is going to be there also. So I thank you very much.
That's great. We appreciate the invitation. So it is open to the public.
Yes, sir.
And at the Dickinson Recreation Center, 3 o'clock, Sunday, May 4th.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions that we might have?
Thank you for putting this all together. Really.
You're welcome, sir.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public that wants to address the commission? If not, we will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.